Today, I want to cover a very simple composition technique that will instantly let you sound different. We won't look at any crazy chords, and yet we will create beautiful harmonies. Sounds intriguing, I know. Let's roll. I want to start with one line, and here in blue, you start seeing already that now something has changed. I just create mini tonal centers that I sequentially move through. So these are all modes from the 7 main modes or church modes, like some guys call them. So the Phrygian, Ionian, Lydian, Aeolian, Mixolydian, Ionian. In brackets, you see the tonal center. So this one is all based on the G root tone, so to speak. So we have scale tones -2, -3. Then we have 5, -6, -7, right? And here I switch to another scale and so on. Let me play you this example first, and you will realize that some of those parts actually sound a bit disconnected because I'm switching my tonal center. And we will give more context with the second line and also with the third and the fourth line. So all of these lines individually should be easy to sing, provided you know the tonal center that we are moving into. Because I realized the moment we come from the F and transition into the F sharp, this will sound like a break of our pattern. And in fact, it is. And that is one of the nice parts that the audience will probably experience or feel as a nice shift of emotion later. Here especially, we need more context. Before I present to you the second line, let me give you the concept of how I connect these different tonal centers. I aim to have a chromatic step when I move into a new one. And this sounds fantastic. And I try to have this in my lead line. So here it is the F to the F sharp. This one is actually a whole step. Here we have a chromatic transition again from the E to the E flat. Here also from the G flat to the natural G. Here I try to artificially create my chromatic connection with this chromatic alteration. That is why it's marked in red. This is not a scale tone. So I did this purposely to transition back into my starting note, which is the G down there. These two lines pretty much become the repetition of the second two lines, so that I create a bit of form directly. Here I present something new. In the first two lines, here I repeat it. This almost feels like home. The first line on its own does not sound impressive, I know. But please don't judge the results too early. What we are going through here is the process of creating the end result step by step. So let's add more musical context by introducing a second line to the first. And if you're classically trained, this is what people call counterpoint. But we can describe it also as a simple conversation between the lines. One guy talks, the other one listens, and then they flip those functions occasionally. I will show you what I mean in the example. I'm trying to create a conversation between my second line and the first one that I have already. So that is why you're seeing a lot of movement in those places here when the top line doesn't move much. When I have more movement on top, I try to stay out of the way a little bit to create variation and contrast in the voices. It actually has a bit more context already. And now coming back to these chromatic transitions, sometimes I even could manage to have this chromatic shift in the second voice as well. Like here, that's the C down to the B, while the F goes up chromatically to the F sharp. I love those moments. And yes, this creates a perfect fifth, which you are not supposed to write if you follow the strict rules of choir writing and everything. I understand. I don't care. I'm looking for horizontal flow way more than the vertical correctness. That's another fantastic example. The G moving to the A flat, the natural E moving to the E flat. Another perfect fifth. I know, but that is just a nice second line to the first line, following the two guidelines, no doublings, no 13ths. We talked about those two guidelines in other videos already, but here's a quick shortcut for you. First, I try to avoid doubling any of the tones from my first line, and that refers to unison doublings and also octave positions. And second, I try to avoid playing the 13 interval. That's one octave plus a half step. So we will end up with 13 half steps between the two notes vertically. And that is a very dissonant interval that almost always sticks out in a bad way. And that is why I personally avoid it in line writing. Quick side note, in a flat ninth chord, this all actually works, but that is harmony. It's not line writing, so the context is different. Here we are talking about lines, and with lines I avoid 13ths. That's it. Let's come back to our example. So far, we have created horizontal variation by switching fluently through our different mini-tonal centers. Now let's create vertical variation by combining different scales. I want to write my third line and my fourth line. But now, as you can spot, from time to time, I actually pick a different scale. Now this is what pure line writing can sound like, and I think it's great. It sounds fresh and very fluent. And please feel free to re-listen to this example and try to spot the chords. So my personal takeaway from using this technique is that you don't have to think in blocky harmony all the time. That's just one option. And you can do this, no question, but there are other things available too. And line writing being just one of them. Now, if you made it to this point in the video, it clearly shows that you are interested in developing a unique sound and style. Fantastic! I quickly want to let you know that I will be starting an interval theory community for composers and music creators on the School platform very soon. I will share many examples and a ton of practical applications around interval theory, and you won't believe how affordable that actually will be. I'm not asking you for any commitment right now. I'm just asking you to jump on the little waiting list so that you are the first to get more information about it, including what I cover and how to get early access. The link is below. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.